Okay, welcome back to another video. This is Gut Check Time. I'm your host. Today we'll be talking about NFL Week 8 predictions. Now, most of these games are almost over. I just wanted to get it in there to get it on record. I've been pretty behind on these. They're going to start coming out earlier in the week. I need to get ahead of that. I need to take this more seriously. But here it is. Here we go, just to get this on record. I did a lot better on my NFL gambling predictions last week. I believe I went 8-4 last week. Yes, I went 8-4, and so far on the season that puts me at 33, 37, and 2. So I'm getting closer to 500. Hopefully this can push me over the edge there. Because I'm not doing well the last couple weeks with college predictions. So here we go. Chargers versus the Bears. I'm going to take the Chargers +3 here, and I actually think the Chargers win the game. I think the Chargers win the game 27-20, and I'm going to take over 41 points here. I don't believe in Mitch Trubisky, and I think the Bears defense is starting to lose trust in their offense. And when that happens, they start to play for themselves instead of the team. And I think that's going to start to happen, especially if they start losing. And again, I think they're going to lose this game. I think the Chargers are going to get back on track. If the Chargers can just creep towards 500 when Derwin James and a lot of their offensive linemen who are injured come back, this team could make a playoff run. The FC is pretty weak, and this is a good football team when healthy. I'm going to take the Chargers, like I said, 27-20, so take the Chargers +3. Like I said, I'm going to take the Chargers +3, and I'm going to take the over 41 because I think the Chargers win 27-20. Next up, Philadelphia versus Buffalo. This is a pick'em game, and I think Buffalo wins this game. I think they'll win because of their defense. Their defense is very good. I do think this game will be close, though. I actually have a kind of a weird score here. I have 22-20 Buffalo. I think their defense is fantastic. I think it's a top 7 unit in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball. And I think the Eagles are going to struggle to move the ball against them. But I do think the Eagles are a good football team. I think the Eagles will make a run, probably finish around 9-7, 8-8 maybe. In the NFC, that's not good enough to get in the playoffs unless you win your division, which is still possible with that record. I think the NFC East is the worst division in the NFC, so it is possible. So like I said, 22-20 Buffalo. So I'm going to take Buffalo. It's a pick'em, so I'm just going to take Buffalo. And then over 39 points. Next up, Carolina versus San Francisco. I'm going to take Carolina +4 here, and then I'm going to take the over-under here is 4.5. I'm going to take the over 40.5 points. I think there's going to be a decent amount of points scored in this game. I think Carolina is going to be able to exploit some weaknesses in San Francisco's offense or in San Francisco's defense. San Francisco's defense is spectacular, though. I think they're a top 3 defense in the NFL, but I think there are weaknesses. I think if you hold up against that front four, which may be the best in football, you can exploit that secondary because I think it's a good secondary. I don't think it's great. I think Richard Sherman is, on the downside of his career, obviously with an Achilles injury and being an older cornerback. And then there's a bunch of guys back there that don't have a lot of experience or good experience for the 49ers in their secondary. So I'm going to take the Panthers to keep this close, and I think it's going to be 27-24 Niners. So I'm going to take the Panthers +4, and I'm going to take the over of 40.5. Next up, we have Cleveland versus New England. I'm going to take Cleveland +10 here. It's kind of a leap of faith here. I do think the Patriots could win this game by 14 points. If this line was 14, this would be a lock for me. There'd be no chance I would not bet this game. But I'm gonna take a leap here, and I'm gonna take Cleveland +10. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate the Patriots. I would never bet on them. I just wouldn't do it. But I mean, they could win this game by more than 10 points. I don't think it will be anything more than probably 17 points. I think it's going to be a decent game. Patriots offense has struggled. Their defense is very good. It's overrated, though. They played no one. I don't care. Yes, I am impressed by shutouts no matter who you play. But when you're giving up points even to like who they've played, which is Luke Falk, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Ryan Fitzpatrick, those are 4 out of like the 7 games they played, or 3 out of the 7 games. That's not good. I mean, I don't understand why people are hyping up this defense like that. I do think they're a good defense, and I think at the end of the year they'll be in the top 5. I don't think they're as good as they've been advertised, and we'll find out. They play, I believe, Philadelphia, Dallas, in Minnesota, and then there's someone else in there in the next 4 games. Those teams all have good offenses, and my guess is they'll put up somewhere between 17 to 30 points against that defense. Um, Kirk Cousins won't, but I think Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, and Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson can come up with a game plan to do so. Um, so I'm going to take Cleveland plus 10, and I'm going to take the over of 43 points. A lot of overs today. I'm going to take the next game is Green Bay versus Kansas City, and this is going to be a little bit of a shocker to most people. I'm going to take Kansas City to win this game. I'm going to take them to win this game 28-23. I think Kansas City has a good enough offense, even with Patrick Mahomes out. The weapons are ridiculous. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Mecole Hardman. And then it's just so much speed all over the field, and obviously with Shady McCoy in the back and Darrell Williams and Damian Williams, I mean, they have a lot of speed on the football field. And the Packers have really good man-to-man cover quarterbacks. Guess what? You can't play man-to-man with the amount of speed on the field. You have to play zone. And I think Matt Moore's veteran quarterback can find holes in his zone if you're going to play it. And if you stick to man-to-man, they're going to burn you for big plays down the field. Or you're going to have to give big enough cushion, and man-to-man is just going to keep giving up 5 to 8 yard chunks. So I think Kansas City wins this game, so I'm taking Kansas City plus 4. I'm taking the over of 47.5 points. Next up, Miami versus Pittsburgh. I'm going to take Miami plus 14. This is way too many points versus I think Mason Rudolph is back, and even if he's actually, I think preferably if I was a Pittsburgh fan, I'd want Devlin Hodges in. Hodges has played pretty well from what I've seen. I think he's kind of reminds me of Gardner Minshew in the way he carries himself. I'm not saying he's as talented, because I think Gardner Minshew is more talented, and I think Gardner Minshew can be an average starter in this league. I think he can be Case Keenum. But he carries himself in a way of where you want to follow that guy. Whereas Mason Rudolph seems scared to me, and I wouldn't want to follow him. So I think Pittsburgh is going to ultimately win the game, because I think Miami is the worst football team in the NFL. But I think they're only going to win it by 10. I think Pittsburgh is going to win this game 23-13, and the over-under is 43.5. That puts it at the under 43.5. That only puts you at 36 points. So I'm going to take Miami plus 14 and the under 43.5. Next up, we're just going to start picking games. Seattle versus Atlanta. Like I said, Atlanta, my Super Bowl pick. Dead wrong on it. In the championship games, I believe I had Atlanta and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is still alive, could do it. And I still think they're immensely talented. That's why I still believe in that pick as an NFC championship game. And then I had in the AFC, New England versus Kansas City. So, I mean, I could get 3 out of 4, and if you get 3 out of 4, that's pretty good. And I had Kansas City and Atlanta in the Super Bowl. I still believe in Kansas City, especially their defense is starting to look better. But I don't believe in Atlanta anymore, and Dan Quinn will probably be fired at the end of the year. And I don't even think it's his fault at this point. I think a lot of those players are starting on the downside of his career. And I think you might see one more run if you get a really fiery and energetic coach next, but that will be it. I think they might have one more run in them, but that will probably be it for that team as we see it now. So like I said, I'm taking Seattle. The Giants versus Detroit. I'm going to take Detroit here. I think the Giants keep this close, though. Detroit's defense, I don't know if they're good or bad. They were really good the first couple weeks, and they've been really bad the last couple weeks. Justin Coleman's been one of the best pickups in free agency in a long time. He might be a top 5 cornerback in this league. He's definitely the number 1 nickel cornerback in this league. I'm going to take Detroit. Jets versus Jags. I'm taking the Jags. The Jets are terrible. Sam Darnold is who I thought he was coming out of college. At best, I thought he could be Brett Favre, and in my opinion, Brett Favre's overrated. And I just don't see a scenario which he's going to turn into that, to be honest with you. I think he's just going to be pretty much Jameis Winston. I think he's going to turn the ball over a lot. I think he's going to make a lot of stupid, boneheaded decisions like we saw last week versus New England. And I think it was an draft. I think he was overdrafted. And I held this opinion for a long time. I didn't like him coming out of USC. I thought Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen were the 2 best quarterbacks coming out. Obviously, I can't defend. I think Baker Mayfield would be fine. I think he's just, again, the NFL and all of sports is a league of adjustments. When you come in and people don't have tape or haven't seen you before, you look good, because especially when you get into college and the NFL, because you're talented. That's how you got there. But then from there on out, once they get film on you, they adjust back to you, and then you have to adjust back to them. It's a game of constant adjustments. So Baker Mayfield, we'll see how he adjusts throughout this year and into next year. And if he adjusts like I think he can, he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. Josh Rosen, I don't know if we'll ever get the chance to see him in a good situation. Not even good situation, average situation. He's going to be on the two worst teams in football in back-to-back years. The Cardinals last year had the worst offensive line I think I've ever seen on a professional football field, and the Dolphins aren't far behind that this year. They're just both those franchises have been terrible the last 2 years, and sadly he's gotten stuck behind both of them, and I feel bad for him. He has immense talent. I don't care what anyone says; nothing is going to change my mind about that. But the thing is, I hope the Dolphins do draft Tua, and Tua is going to be a bust behind them, just like Josh Rosen will be a bust behind them because they don't have anyone. That team's pathetic. And I feel really bad for Josh Rosen. Like I said, though, I'm going to take the man, I got off on a tangent there. I'm sorry. I'm going to take the Jags in that game versus the Jets. Next up, we're going to be talking about Cincinnati versus the Los Angeles Rams over in England, and I'm taking the Rams. Cincinnati's the second worst team in football. The Rams are probably going to be an 8-8 to 10-6 team. I'm taking the Rams. Bucks versus Tennessee. I'm going to take Tennessee in this game. For the same reason I took the Jags versus the Jets. Jameis Winston. He'll turn the ball over. He'll give you extra possessions. I'm taking Tennessee. Denver versus Indy. I'm taking Indy here. I know I'm a Denver fan, but we can't get out of our own way. Offense. Our offense is terrible. Our offense has not been good since Peyton Manning left. And at this point, we don't have dynamic playmakers. We have one. We have Courtland Sutton and Phillip Lindsay, but we don't know really how to use Phillip Lindsay in the pass game, and that's where he's underutilized and needs to be utilized more. And our offensive line isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be after the first couple of weeks. It's gotten better. It's still not great. Could definitely be a lot better, but we just don't push the ball down the field. And I think a lot of that's play calling. And people say Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco hasn't been terrible. The play calling has been pretty average. In certain games, the offensive line has been terrible. There's been about, I would say, 2 out of the 6 games we've played up to this point, or 2 out of the 7 games we played up to this point, they were just terrible. And I don't care who you put behind them in those 2 games, they were lost. It was the Oakland game and the Kansas City game. They were terrible. And I think Drew Lock, when he's healthy, needs to play because I want to see how he does. I think he'll be fine. He played really well in the last couple weeks of the preseason. And what I like from him, I saw growth every week. If I just saw him come out and started slinging around, I would have been more to say, this is just the preseason. But I saw him struggle first week, get better, and then he got injured. So I'm taking Indianapolis. Sadly, I have to pick against my team, but they're just not any good this year. Arizona versus New Orleans. Drew Brees coming back. I think he should have sat out this week. I think New Orleans wins. I think Drew Brees comes out unscathed, but I think he should have sat out this week. And then Oakland versus the Texans, or the Raiders versus the Texans. I'm going to take the Texans in this one. The Raiders are the poster child for 8-8 for me. They're inconsistent. They have some good players, some inexperienced players, and then some players you wonder why they're even on an NFL roster. They're just a poster child for 8-8, and I think they'll end up going probably 7-9 or 8-8. So I'm going to take the Texans in this one. That'll do it for my NFL Week 8 video. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you want more content like this in the future. Thank you.